The anime starts with the end of a game after 3 long years, which is actually not enough time for the protagonist, a hardcore gamer from Japan, who's disappointed about the end of this game. He truly considers it trash and wants a game that takes at least 10 years to beat. Despite how disappointed he is, he wastes no time and immediately searches for a hardcore video game with garbage balancing. As soon as he types that in his browser, the screen displays the scenery of a mysterious world, and some unknown company offers him a game that never ends in a fantasy world of swords and magic. He's instantly interested in that, so he decides to look at the difficulty settings, which allows him to choose between easy, normal, and a strange new difficulty called Hell Mode. The description tells him that regret is the least of his worries, because he will be faced with utter despair. In Hell Mode, leveling up requires 100 times more experience than normal mode. He has heard that countless times before, so it doesn't intimidate him at all, and he decides to select that setting. There are a lot of character classes to choose from, like Swordsman, Spear User, Swordmaster, Hero, and even Demon Lord and others. However, the difficulty rating for Summoner class is higher than any other for some reason, and that catches his attention. It's also still in alpha testing, so he doesn't know how he's even able to select it, but he simply thinks that it seems like a fun challenge. That's why he decides to click on Start, accepting his fate as a guinea pig in this game. As soon as he clicks that option, he suddenly disappears, only leaving an empty room. The next thing he knows is that everything feels lukewarm all of a sudden, which is pretty relaxing, even if he doesn't understand anything. That sensation changes completely in just a few seconds, and the place he's in starts getting tight, making it difficult to breathe. Soon enough, he comes out into this new world as a newborn baby, and sees this as a literal take on the reincarnation trope. His father holds him happily after he's born, and when he sees that he's a boy, he tells him that he's already got his name picked out, which is Alan. Alan easily accepts his new name and new life, even though he used to be a 35-year-old, uneducated, broke, romantically inept, white-collar worker named Kenichi Yamada. Now he's been reincarnated as this little dude named Alan, and he's currently 1 year old. He can't talk just yet, but he has no problems thinking to himself or understanding words, so it seems like Japanese is the common tongue in this world. He's been born into a serf family, just like how he chose at the start, and this is a frontier village where pioneers pay tax to a ruling lord to cultivate the land, so it doesn't have a name yet. His father's name is Rodin, and he's a real family guy who works hard day after day. His mother's name is Teresia, and she's very pretty and as sweet as can be. He's their only kid right now, but since they're still young and so loving, he knows that it's only a matter of time before he gets siblings. Alan suddenly yawns, so Teresia decides to put him to sleep and leaves to have dinner with Rodin. However, as soon as he's finally left alone, Alan decides to try to open the stat window. Unfortunately, nothing happens, making him feel disappointed, because even if living the life of a baby seems awesome, he's supposed to be a summoner now, and he wishes he could do something with it. He's lost count of how many times he's tried, and he's slowly starting to lose hope. Alan decides to try one more time, just because, and this time, a bright light appears right above him, suddenly showing him a book. He clearly wasn't expecting that, so he can't hold back the scream that comes out of his throat. That immediately alarms his parents, who come running into the room to see if he's okay. Alan knows that he can't let them see the book, so he quickly makes it disappear and pretends to be asleep. His parents are clearly confused, but they assume that he was just talking in his sleep. Once they're finally gone, Alan sits up and decides to try again, making the book appear in front of him. After a whole year of trying, he can finally see what he was hoping for, and the book shows him his current stats. He's level 1 for now, and his class is Summoner, just as he expected. A page of the book shows him details on his summoning skill, so he learns that Summon and Create have their own skill experience apparently. He assumes that it means they level up the more he uses them, and for now, he has 0 experience of course. Despite this, he already has summons available for creation, though it's limited to insects and beasts right now. Alan notices that he can only access H-level insects and beasts for now, which is truly the bottom of the barrel. The book suddenly shows him another page with a message for him, thanking him for his patronage and asking him if he's enjoying this isekai world. In the message, the god of creation also apologizes for the delay in delivering his grimoire. Alan simply assumes it's some kind of letter from the administrator, the said god of creation, who's apparently named Elmia. In the letter, Elmia also tells him that since he selected a class still under testing, it took time to finish the appropriate paperwork, and the staff worked hard to finish as soon as they could. Lastly, Elmia warns him that they don't accept any questions or cancellations in regards to class selection. Alan just knows that they still have some hiccups to work out for the summoner class, but he still wants to summon stuff, so he tries summoning an insect. At first, nothing happens at all, so he tries summoning an insect in several ways, getting a little impatient. There are no game FAQs or walkthroughs in this world, so he knows that he has to mess around and figure it out himself. That's when he thinks that he might have to use the Create skill first, and when he does, a card appears right in front of him. His first summoning is a H-rank insect card that has Endurance +1 and Agility +1, which is pretty basic, but he sees it as a great achievement. Alan excitedly tries to summon the insect from the card, but that's when his mother enters the room to check on him. He pretends to be asleep again, and decides to keep it quiet for now, and save the summoning for tomorrow. The next day, as soon as Teresia leaves him alone so he can take a nap, Alan doesn't wait waste any more time and tries to summon the insect. The card instantly transforms into a bunch of light particles, and they all gather to form a big grasshopper that jumps at his face. That startles him at first, but after observing the insect, Alan wonders if it will listen to his orders. He asks the insect to approach him, but it simply ignores him and leaves the room, which makes him think that it's just a dumb bug. Alan decides to check the grimoire to see if it can offer some help, and it shows him the grasshopper's stats. He apparently can pick its name as well, so he decides to name it Denka. The grimoire also displays a section for buffs, but he doesn't know what that means exactly. There, he sees that endurance and agility are +1, and soon enough, he realizes that it actually boosts his stats. Alan can't contain his excitement, so he accidentally raises his voice, and Teresia quickly enters the room to check on him. She instantly freaks out when she sees the giant bug in front of him, so she steps on the grasshopper without hesitation, getting rid of his first summoning. After several days of toying around with his skills, Alan eventually moved on to creating a rank H beast. He manages to create a rank H mouse named Mousy, which is as dumb as Denka, but they at least use their ability whenever he says so. It seems this world is crawling with a bunch of powerful monsters, but he knows that he can't beat any with his 2 summonings. He can stock up to 10 summon cards for each creature, and the most important thing is their buffs. For example, by stocking 10 of Mousy's cards, his attack stat goes up by 10. Now he packs enough punch to easily surpass what any regular baby can do. The experience required to level up skills and characters in Hell mode is 100 times the normal, so he still has a long way to go. Before he can continue with his summonings, his father comes back home after a long day of work, and Teresia instantly worries when she sees him covered in blood. Rodan quickly reassures her and explains that it's just blood from a hunt, so he's not hurt at all. Teresia is relieved to hear that, and Rodan excitedly tells Alan that he took down a boar today. Alan knows that his father is a serf, but when fall and winter roll around, he goes monster hunting with the other men of the village. Rodan tells him that it was a great boar, the Humongous, and asks him if he wants to see it. Alan gets excited, because it will be his first look at a real monster, so he accepts without hesitation. Rodan carries him on his shoulders and tells him that the neighbors are carving it up now, so they can go check it out now. As Rodan walks, Alan also manages to take a good look at the outside world for the first time. His father shows him a flock of birds, saying that they're alba herons, birds that flock together and head north at this time of the year, signaling the coming of fall. After looking at that type of monster flying up in the sky, Rodan confesses that he named him after the alba heron and explains that for them, the sky is the limit. They can use their wings to fly wherever they want in the world, and that's true freedom. He really thinks that it sounds great, but Teresia totally bit his head off when he told her, and he knows that that's what he gets for naming him after a monster. Rodan continues walking after that, and Alan falls asleep in his arms, but when he opens his eyes again, he's surprised to see the great boar they defeated. His father lets him take a good look up close, and Alan thinks that it's terrifying, because he knows that he couldn't beat such a huge beast. A man named Gerda walks up to them, and lets everyone know that today's heavyweight champion is here. All the men around applaud Rodan for hunting the great boar, though he dismisses it and says that he just got lucky. Gerda knows that he's just being humble, but he changes the subject and notices that he brought his son. Alan politely greets him and introduces himself, which takes Gerda off guard, since he's only a year old. Gerda mentions that his daughter is the same age, but she's nowhere near this civilized. Alan decides to ask him if great boars are strong, and Gerda informs him that they're C-rank monsters. That means that it takes at least 20 guys just to take one down, so they're actually pretty strong. Alan makes sure to remember that information, because it at least gives him a benchmark. 10 months later, Alan is now almost 2 years old, and he has finally reached Summon Level 2 and Create Level 2. With this, he has obtained Expansion Level 1, and the Notes feature of the grimoire has been unlocked. Alan can already feel the gamer adrenaline rush, so he excitedly opens the stats page and sees that he can now create G-rank creature cards. He also gained a skill that fuses summons together, and his card inventory space has doubled, which means he gets double the buffs. Alan already wants to fuse some stuff together, but he doesn't have enough MP, so he decides to eat a lot to recover it. After dinner, he immediately heads to his room to try out this new skill, fusing 2 H-rank Mousy cards. Despite his excitement, nothing happens at all, and the grimoire informs him that he doesn't have enough MP, even though he recovered it to max. Alan then decides to just create a new summon card instead, and tries to create a G-rank beast card. However, he doesn't have enough MP to create a G-rank beast either, so he truly can't fuse or create anything new with his current max MP. By the time he's 3 years old, he already has several cards, including G-rank beasts and insects, and even birds. Alan decides to make a fusion of 2 of his cards, and that scores him a G-rank bird card, so he names it Chappie. When he summons it, the bird flies towards him and lands on his shoulder, so he takes a look at his stats, noticing that the bird has a voice mimic ability. He doesn't know what it means at first, until Chappie repeats his words and tone of voice perfectly. Alan thinks that it's really cool, because that might be good for tricking enemies. He then summons a frog named Hopper and a mole named Molly, 2 G-rank beasts. Alan asks Hopper to use their provoke ability, and the frog starts jumping, making their skin glow, which makes for a great distraction during battle. He then asks Molly to use dig, and the mole instantly starts digging a huge hole in the ground. Alan confirms that Molly could make a ton of pitfall traps, which can be very useful. He knows that the key to becoming a great summoner is knowing all about about the various stat buffs of his creatures. There's a lot of depth and complexity, so this is the hardcore gaming he wanted all along. Alan suddenly falls into the hole, and his excitement quickly dies down as he realizes that he's still not fighting monsters anytime soon. The bell rings when it's 3 o'clock, and he already knows what's coming, but he's not excited at all. Gerda's daughter, Krina, looks for him and excitedly invites him to play Dueling Knights, as always. Knowing that he has no choice, Alan comes out of the hole and greets his neighbor, Krina the Fierce. The little girl holds a wooden sword against him, and Alan accepts her challenge to a fair duel. Even though he plays along, this is the opposite of cool to him, and it makes him feel kind of embarrassed. However, he knows that he has to take these play fights with Krina seriously, because she's surprisingly fast and has no mercy when it comes to a sword duel. Alan poured all his creature buffs into agility, and he can barely keep up with her. Krina is so overpowered that she even breaks his wooden sword, but keeps attacking him anyway. By the end of the day, Alan's parents come to his rescue, though it's a little too late. Teresia is apparently already expecting another baby, which is not a surprise for anyone. Once Krina leaves, Alan gets up from the ground, and even after getting beat up by a little girl, he decides to help his mother and carries the vegetables in her hands. Teresia thanks him with a smile, and that night, as they're having dinner as a family, Alan tells his father that he wants to help them harvest the taters since his mother is pregnant. This clearly takes them by surprise, so Alan reassures them, saying that he's strong enough to do it. At any rate, it's safe to say that he has the stamina of a full-grown adult now, but he keeps that information to himself. Teresia tells him that kids like him shouldn't have to work, so he can just continue playing with Krina. Roden agrees, and tells him that he's already been helping them around the house. Alan tries to insist, but his father stands firm on his answer, saying that he'll end up doing it eventually, so he should enjoy life without farm work while he can. Just then, Alan understands that they're basically stuck in the serf class forever, and working the farms is on a different level from house chores. It's really grueling stuff, and he wouldn't wish that on his 3-year-old son either, so he decides to accept his parents' decision. They're both glad to know he understands, and Teresia mentions that she noticed he's been throwing rocks at the tree out back lately. Roden asks him why he's doing that, and Alan explains that he told him there are monsters in the forests outside the house, so he's going to protect his mother from them with rocks. Roden laughs and praises his son for being so brave, but deep down, Alan was just doing that to see if he could learn skills aside from summoning. Teresia smiles and asks him if he'll protect Krina as well, and Alan agrees, though all he can think of is how rough she is when they're playing knights. Roden mentions that they have so much fun playing knights, and he can't wait for his appraisal ceremony. Alan asks him what that is, so his mother explains that when he turns 5 years old, there is a divine ceremony to determine what kind of talent he has. Roden tells him that, with any luck, a good talent will help him break out of serfdom. Alan seems excited to hear that, and by the time winter arrives, he decides to check on Denka. It has been bouncing for so long in the same spot that it even created a hole in the ground. Now Alan knows that he can summon a creature for a whole day without any problems, which is big progress. He suddenly hears Krina's voice and immediately makes his grimoire disappear. Having no choice, he plays knights with her like they usually do, and she's as fierce as always. This time, he tries to match her pace and blocks her attacks, but Krina ends up beating him, like usual. Rodan comes back home after work, so Teresia comes out to greet him when Denka suddenly jumps at her leg, making her panic and fall. Rodan immediately runs to check on her, and even though it was only a little scare, Teresia starts having contractions, which makes it clear that the baby is coming. Krina quickly goes home to tell her mother, while Rodan and Alan prepare everything and take care of Teresia. Alan doesn't know what to do, and it makes him kind of wish that he had played a birthing sim about now. However, it's clear that his father is just as lost as him, even though this is the second time for him. Fortunately, Krina's mother Matilda arrives just in time to help like last time, but she asks all men to stay out, saying that the ladies will handle this. She kicks them out just like that, so they have to sleep outside while Matilda and her daughter help Teresia all night. At dawn, the baby boy is finally born, and Roden confidently names him Mash, though Teresia hopes that it's not another name he took from a monster. Alan can't help but wonder why he reincarnated, and even though he knows that all he wants is to max up his levels, this family stuff is pretty nice too. He's not exactly sure how he'll pull it off, but he wants to free all of his family from the drudgery of serfdom.